This is the Amp Hour Podcast. Recorded February 24th, 2016. Episode 288. Call-in show number 3.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
Another call-in show.
Yeah, and this one's full up, man. We got some. We have some more practice, and we have some more practice on getting the word out, and we'll see how this one goes.
We're beating them off with the soldering iron.
That.
Yep.
Man, you gotta record and play this stuff back to yourself, you know?
Right. Anyway, we're using Skype today, and I have zero faith in Skype, which is earned.
Oh yeah. That's experience.
We'll
That's the voice of experience right there, folks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
apologies up front for the audio quality, and there'll be delays, and it'll be
Yeah, it'll be fine. We've
Generally
done this. This is now our fourth show, our fourth
Okay.
call-in show. You know, I was thinking about it the other day. I was thinking about it on the drive home. And the reason it feels good to you and me is that we're so used to having a single guest on. This is like actually mixing it up for us.
Yep.
You know, it's like, oh, we don't know what they're going to talk about. So we have a little bit of an idea, but yeah.
Well, I have no idea. You might.
Right. I got all the
'Cause
emails. So
you've got the emails. I
Right.
have no clue. So.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so let's kick right into it and get our first caller here.
Let's go.
Hey, what's your name and where you're from?
My name is Mahesh and I'm from India.
Hey, Mahesh, welcome to the Amp Hour.
Hey, Mahesh.
Hey,
What's your question?
my question is to you, Dave.
Oh,
I
excellent.
recently started watching your channel. I mean, I do
Yep.
have a question for you too, but Dave is a professional ranter. And
Thank you.
I've been following his channel and my wish list has become far, far larger than it used to be. And I picked up a Rigol DS1054Z because you said that was the best scope there was. And I was just wondering regarding soldering equipment. You always suggest Hakko and Weller. So Hakko is very difficult to get in India. It's $300 for the FX 888D.
Right.
So I was wondering, is it really worth the price at $300?
Is that $300 US?
Yes.
Right. No, that seems very expensive to me.
Me too.
But it depends on the alternatives, though. That's the thing. I mean, what other brands? Weller's good. JBC is like way up top shelf, so they're ridiculously expensive. If you think Hakko's expensive, JBC, which is the other one I recommend, ridiculously expensive. There's I don't know what other brands are in India.
I feel like some of it's expectations, though, too, isn't it? I mean, like, some of it is what you want to do with it, too. Like, if you want it to be a 10-year soldering iron or a 5-year soldering iron or a 2-week soldering iron, like, that's part of it as well.
I mean, I do want something that lasts long because this isn't actually for me. We have a small 5% company and we've been in business for 50 years. So what happened was recently there was floods and the entire company right now doesn't exist. So we want to upgrade to better stuff. And we only do prototype assembly. So I don't mind putting the money. But then I just want to know if it's worth the effort, the Hakko. Does it actually last as long as
It actually
people make
does.
it out to be?
I've got my original Hakko iron from when I bought when I was a teenager, the Hakko 926, and it still works fine. I can still get the same tips for it, and
Do you think it's still the same build quality today, though, too? I think that's another important question when you're talking about gear
I
over
think
time,
they're better. I think they're better build quality these
nice.
days. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even some people on the forum were saying that the build quality has gone down after they shifted plants or something to Mexico.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of that then.
That's
I'm
the
not
problem. You
sure
don't buy a
when
new
that
one all the
happened.
time, Dave.
Yeah, no,
right?
no, exactly. You know, I bought one in my entire life, and my second one was given to me. But so like,
Could you, Mahesh? Could you buy one? Could you buy a set of them secondhand or anything like that? I mean, would that even be possible to get one like an older vintage?
I don't really think so. I think I can get the old 962C probably.
Right. Yeah.
The
Well, that's okay,
but
but
the AAA, I don't think so.
yeah, I mean the Triple Eight is like it's not the best iron out there, but it's a really good entry level iron. But if you're paying too much for it, then it loses its appeal somewhat. So unless you can import it cheaper than that, I don't know. But as I said, it depends on what alternatives are out there. I mean, you can't go wrong buying the Heiko FX 888. I mean, it's just a nice entry level, iron, and it'll last you a long time, and it's easy to get. You'll always be able to get spare parts for it. There's a lot of fake parts out there though. You've got to be very careful. A lot of fake tips and things like that you buy on eBay, and they're just terrible quality. But you won't regret buying it, I suspect. So that's my opinion.
Cool. Well, thanks for calling, Mahesh. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Yeah, it's tough anytime you're doing, equipment type stuff like that. Where I mean, and it sounds like that was at the level we were talking about cash flow last time, but from a business perspective too, like that capital expenditure
Yep.
type thing. That's
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big decision because you can easily, like you were talking about how much gear, I mean, how much dollar-wise gear you had coming in the lab today, and like there can be significant capital outlays there. So it's tough.
yeah, big time.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But hey, it's business. I mean, don't skimp. I mean,
Right.
if you're relying on this for your business, like just get at least decent quality gear. You don't have to go top shelf. You don't have to buy a $1,000 JBC, but you shouldn't buy a $50 eBay one hung low brand. So.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So next caller, here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?
I'm Sebastian from Germany.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Hey, Sebastian, and it's 1 a.m. there. 1 a.m. So thanks for.
Yeah, like a few sound issues here, but I think they're fixed soon.
All right, we'll see what we can do. What is your question?
What did I write? I have one issue with the floating USB device or the floating wall plug system. I'm sure you've experienced that.
Sorry, the floating wall plug issue. Can you explain?
If you plug in a wall plug power supply, you have a 12-volt DC, but it's like mixed with a floating AC of 70 volts or something like that.
Oh, it's capacitively coupled to the mains. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, of course. It's not. You don't have a lot of power or current, but still it's from an ESD issue point of view. I mean, I've tried several things in my company, and as soon as you plug a USB, grounded USB, earth mains grounded USB to a device with floating wall plug, you get problems.
Well, could you explain what some of the problems are that happen?
The microcontroller trips, or like for example, we got issues with we have a little LED that's going on and off, and it's switching on, for example, as soon as you put on the USB plug.
So no power applied, but you're saying that because of the floating, it basically there's some kind of leakage current that's basically ending up powering the whole system. Is that the idea?
No. Oh. It's rather an ESD issue. I think as soon as you touch the whole device with your grounded USB, it trips, like the microcontroller. I was not sure if I'm the only one or my design is simply like a little bit off.
There's something wrong there. No, there's something horribly wrong there. Usually this is because this has to do with a capacitive issue.
I measured a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's like something is happening, and we didn't get it to work really properly. And we did sell the device, but
with your microcontroller resetting, there is something wrong there because it is referenced to its own ground and nothing else. What you do to that ground should not matter. So there's a system grounding issue. Like this sort of problem is common on audio visual gear, for example. Everyone might be familiar with this. You're hooking up your DVD player to your TV or something, and you might get a little zap from the connector on the back.
Right.
That's because that is a double insulated, isolated DVD player, and you get a little bit of leakage there, tiny little bit. It can't hurt you, right? Well, it can't kill you, but it will, but it'll give you a little zap and you think, ooh.
Here's the interesting issue, because you can actually measure the current with I don't know. Okay, this is a little bit from my experience but if I'm wearing headphones, working on the computer, and I'm touching the DC ground, which is not connected to mains earth yet, I can sense the current flowing through tiny, I don't know, my fingers. It's not
tickle neurons, huh?
You must have some horrible plug pack that you're using, horribly leaky plug pack. One of those Chinese ones, cheap Chinese ones with the crappy...
I think they were from, Meanwhile probably, or I think XP Power. We got wall plugs from XP Power, so rather a normal company, I would say. Not the cheapest one.
Right. So what about the swapping between... I mean, so obviously in any troubleshooting situation, right, you're going to be swapping between a lot of stuff. Is this so custom that you can't swap it with another commercial level one? Is that the idea?
Oh,
the plug pack.
The basic solution was to get a bigger one, which has secondary mains earth. So there are medical devices, medical workers,
right, yep,
or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is working, but of course that's a huge wall plug for just a 5-watt device.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is usually not a problem. If it was a universal problem, everyone and everything would have it. So there is something horribly or subtly wrong with your setup.
One of the two, yes, one of the two extremes, yeah.
Of course,
and unfortunately, this is one of the ones that without being there and being able to, as Chris said, swap things around and see what happens, and then be able to measure stuff. It's hard to advise. Apart from the fact that no, it's not normal.
I was also asking you, how many, so, was it a lot? So it seems like it is isolated to this wall plug because you are able to swap that out, right? So just talking about troubleshooting stuff here. You're able to swap that thing out. That's good. You can find one that doesn't do this condition. But then within the subset of ones that are tripping, is there one? Are there 10? Is it the whole lot? How many are doing that?
I know it's a whole lot. It's I don't know, 50 PCBs.
Oh,
it's not really a security issue or a really important issue. It's just you can say, you have to re-plug it in and out and it will work again, something like that.
But the thing is, the problem you're having is that your microcontroller, your little project board, is resetting. And that, to me, is deeply troubling because it's its own ground reference. The reset pin that's resetting it is reference to the ground. Okay. So what you do to that ground should not matter.
Yeah, I give you that. But I'm troubleshooting on an advanced level. So what's actually working, the microcontroller is not tripping itself. It's just switching in an
you've got a horrible you've got a horrible system grounding problem here. So yeah.
I don't know. So I was curious if others have. So
it's only when you plug the USB cable into your board does it trip. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, only when I touch it, and not every time, because of course it's AC
right.
in Europe, 50 hertz. So to touch it I don't know, maybe 20 times. And on the 21st time,
how that is propagating through to the reset pin is troubling. Are you using the internal pull-up resistor in the chip for the reset pin? I'd be really whacking whack a 10K on there or something, something reasonably low.
No, it's external. And as I said, it's too easy to say it's resetting the microcontroller. It's just it trips the microcontroller in a state where it shouldn't be. But I couldn't quite debug it because as soon as I put the debug on it, of course it's mains grounded.
Mains grounded and bam.
It works.
No, these are horrible. These are horrible problems.
Well, I think maybe the constructive thing to say though too is so if I was in this scenario, I think one thing that I would do is go back and draw a power and ground tree just to make sure that it seems like it's systemic enough that it might be part of your PCB, that kind of thing. But yeah, chasing that down is that's a tough one. But doing those fundamental things.
Okay, I then I have one question because my how you call it, the ground from the USB, the outer thing that is connected directly to the ground of the PCB. And I think I could like put a 33K kilo resistor in there and a little C. But I'm not sure if that helps.
Well, you can also use a notebook that's disconnected from its plug pack, running from its internal battery, and you can use that USB to debug. So I would at least take that step and then debug to find out how it's resetting.
It's quite like it's half year ago, I think. I tripped over that.
You've been chasing this that long?
Yeah, no, it's just like I didn't find a solution to that in no forum or in the internet, nowhere. It wasn't even an issue, and I think like a lot of devices.
Well, because it's
issue.
It's an entirely system-dependent issue. I've got to say that there's something wrong with the design of your board if it's susceptible to this.
I think at this point if I'm using Car Talk as an example for a call-in show at this point, they'd be like, you have to go to your mechanic. And I think in your case, that would be
us. He's come to us.
Nah, it can't be us. No, but I mean, like, it is. You need.
Exactly. I trust you.
No, I think. I mean, I have you scoped that reset pin as well
with your mains grounded scope?
No. With the handheld scope, of course, you have to have a floating scope.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. And as I said, it's not resetting actually. The microcontroller is not resetting. It's just
right. It's actually locking up or doing something or. Yeah, no, there's something else horribly. Like it's not something weird like you've left the ground pin off the chip and it's powering it through the ESD diode or something weird ground or power pin.
I know, but I saw that. I like that because I got that issue as well.
There you go. Yeah, I did a video on that for those who don't.
Yeah,
no,
that's a good one.
I've seen that be the cause of lots of weird issues, like very similar to that. So, people go, but it works, and then, but it's just not robust, and it's because your power pin's not connected, because the PCB layout guy forgot to hook up the power pin. Anyway, I'm not sure there's anything further we can help you with this, unfortunately.
I just want to put that out because maybe some more people got that problem.
Right, I think that people listening would maybe be able to tell that as well, right?
Is an option to is this proprietary stuff, or can you actually post your schematic and photos and things like that to a forum?
It's unfortunately it's
proprietary.
What you said, the word. No,
yep. I would simply get another engineer with a fresh set of eyes who don't tell them anything. Don't tell them just let them sit down and figure it out for themselves, and they might instantly find it. That's all I can recommend. That's all I've got left.
50-50, my fault or like some weird issue with like all the mains blacks.
That is crazy. So yeah, good luck with. I shouldn't laugh because I've been there. It's a horrible problem, and you can spend weeks.
Yeah, I understand. Like it's troubleshooting. Yeah. You cannot do anything.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
So what's to say? I thank you very much for doing like all the shows and like the videos. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Following that for like 5 years, probably longer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks for calling in.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
They're the hairy ones.
Well, I was thinking about this too as I was panicking. And my heart goes out to him, of course. But you know what the difference is? I made that Car Talk reference. Is that this would be like us talking to not to the people that are repairing their cars, but the people that are designing the cars. Right? That's the difference. Is that there is no
exactly.
This is a lot of and that's the problem with a lot of electronics. When like Sebastian said, I'm searching all these forums, I'm trying to find these answers, and it's just like. Sometimes you're asking a question that hasn't been asked yet.
Exactly. Well, as I said, it's totally system dependent. Like each case is going to be different, or is most likely to be different. So, yeah, it's tricky. A fresh set of eyes does wonders.
Yeah, well, and so and you can hire a fresh set of eyes too. That's actually another thing I was going to recommend is that sometimes you can hire a consultant, and that's kind of your only choice.
For a week, go like, come in, fix the problem. If you fix it in a day, great.
Yeah, it's tough.
I had a job didn't last long. It was like just a temporary thing.
Well, at least you're honest about it, Dave.
I was this was when I was really young, right? And I don't want to hog the show, but my stupid when I was a boy stories. Anyway, I was hired as a tech to actually repair these boards that no one else could repair. And it was like, well, they were put in like the too hard basket. You know, there was a whole bunch of.
Oh,
The
so easy fix, somebody, like the less than 5 hour fix, and then the more than 5 hour fix.
And then the greater than, you know. And, you know, I remember, like, I was in there for the first and only day, I think it was. Anyway, and I remember I fixed like 5 boards, you know, like this, like I just started that day and I knew nothing about it. I had a schematic, I had a bunch of boards in a box and said, these ones are in the too hard basket, fix them.
Yep.
And, you know, at the end of the day, he went, how'd you go? And I went, I fixed 5 of them.
Right, you're proud of yourself too, right?
And he's like, I was totally proud of myself. And he went, oh, is that all? And it's like,
yeah, you SOB, you get down here.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think I went back. I think that was my only.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, it was like, geez, you know, if you didn't appreciate me fixing 5 of the things, bugger off, you know.
Yep. All right, so next up, we are going to do something a little different here. If it actually, yes, it'll work.
A song and dance show before?
No, we are going to do a pre-recorded voicemail. So I should mention this too. So we were doing 3 different ways this time. You could either call in, which is what we have people on our Skype line. You could leave us a voicemail, 929 the amp hour, or sorry, 929 amp hour. If you're in the States, there's a 855 number as well. I don't remember what it was. And the last one is just to send us an email, and that's fine. And that's how we're going to do this going forwards. We're going to make it a little bit more streamlined on the Skype side of things, but
emails I don't necessarily like because this is a radio show.
Of course. Some people can't do it though. Like so.
True.
Yeah, and so that was the order of preference as well. Of course, is we want you here, we want to talk to you, we want to laugh with you. But the second one is we'd love to hear your voice, even if you know, because some people it's 3 a.m. where they are. That's understandable.
Of course.
And
all right, well, play it, dude.
All right, here we go.
Hi there. My name is Aaron Boyd. I've had a successful career as an electrician, and I've been an electronics hobbyist for about 10 years. I've been using Chris's site to learn more about design, but I wonder, where do you find opportunities in the current market to transition into career for this without a formal education? Once you could start from the ground floor, but now everyone has a degree. How does a passionate guy who just loves electronics find a way to make a living just making cool things? Thank you very much. Hope you have a great night.
All right, so the question was basically, how do you get into it when you're not going through the traditional method? We've talked about this a little bit before. I mean, I think that, and you've talked about this. This is this is a lot of path that our past guests have taken as well. But I mean, I think 1 is portfolio. We've talked about that a lot. 2 would be if you make a big enough name for yourself, you could call up Sebastian and be like, I can fix that. You know,
that's it.
And you fix enough of those problems, and you're going to get a call every single time, right? Eventually, you make that name. You know,
it's simple. All it's about is getting that one job, be it a contract role or just like a simple job, just fixing, you know, like being the troubleshooting guy or doing something, you know, and then get your foot up. And you've also got to resist. You've also got to, not give yourself that electrician label anymore. Because, you know, you've got to put...
Right.
Even if you don't have, say, on your resume, electronics engineer, right? Because that's what you do, right?
Right.
And and be it hobby...
It's the job you aspire towards, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Start your own little side business selling, selling kits or whatever. You know, you're designing and selling kits, you're an electronics engineer, right? Call yourself that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who hate that, right? But
screw them, yeah.
It's, you know.
Well, no, we should state as well. Some places it is regulated, and if you're in one of those places, check that out. But
true.
You can say anyone can say electronics designer, and I think that's actually a better. I actually like that term more than engineer because there is such a loading of not stigma, but whatever. There's a loaded. It's a loaded term. So that's,
my first job was as an electronics technician. And then I got a job as an electronics engineer, you know, and it's like, but if I put on my resume, I am an electronics technician, Right? I might not have got as far, perhaps. I'm not saying lie on your resume. You've got to be able to back it up. Right,
but you can say on your resume that says while you're designing the boards for yourself and others, that's when you're an electronics designer versus there's title stuff that matters. So
because I know, as you said, in different countries, but to me, just getting your degree or whatever does not make you an electronics engineer. Electronics engineering is a vocational pursuit. Right? So if you're doing electronics engineering work, you should be calling yourself an electronics engineer, or an electronics design engineer is what I always called myself.
Right, exactly.
Because that's what I've always done. I've designed electronics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, start calling yourself. But it's a matter of getting that, that one leg up. That's all you need, that one little leg up.
Yep.
Some little contract, like a contract is a good way to do it. Like some little, 3-month contract or something, they want you to do something, then you can, like you come in and you might troubleshoot something, or you might, do a little design or something like that. Bam! That goes on your resume.
Yeah, and you make a good name for yourself
engineer.
too. You're going to get, once you find a good, in my experience, at least when I refer people, I have a couple friends that I refer all the work that I know of too, right? Because,
right.
It's people that I know and I trust them, and they're not going to let me down and make me look bad too. So that's another thing.
And as we've always said, it's much easier to get that leg up, get that first job opportunity at the level you're looking for if you've done all the hobby stuff. As he said, he's a hobbyist. He's been designing projects and stuff, I think he said, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And show that off. Go for it. There's
online
the
portfolio.
problem is a lot of people. The problem with a lot of people is that they don't actually go for these engineering jobs. They think, oh, I'm not going to get it. Go for the apply. Go for the interview. And show your stuff. And you might get 10 rejections, but you're eventually, if you're persistent enough and you're good enough. And I've always said, if you've got the talent and the enthusiasm, you will get, you'll never be without a job. And
cool.
You'll find someone who appreciates your work eventually and goes, oh yeah, you're the person I'm looking for. Bam, you're hired. I don't care about your qualifications. Whoop-de-doo. What does that mean? It means nothing.
All right. Well, let's talk to our next caller. Maybe we'll find it. We'll have a little moment of BAM ourselves, huh? Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Brian. I'm calling from Dublin in Ireland.
Wow.
Ireland.
Welcome.
Awesome.
Hello.
What kind of questions do you have?
So I am a student. I'm currently studying for my bachelor's in engineering. I'm doing computer and electronic engineering, and I just wanted to know what your experiences have been like, and if you have any advice for students like myself who might be listening.
That's a good question. Dave, would you like to start? I mean, it's been a little longer for Dave, so I mean, he might need a little more time to remember.
I might need a little more time. You go
couple
first.
More cobwebs to get out of there. So I actually, I had a weird college experience. I was very isolated from my department. Like, I didn't really participate much. There were some people that were really into it. I was more concentrating on beer.
Same here. I was not the participation kind of guy. Yeah, I
think the thing is, a lot of schools, like, so we've had Larry Sears on the show, and obviously he's at my alma mater down the street, and but he's working on a lab that allows you to kind of build your own stuff. And we were just, the last question we were just answering was kind of working on your own projects. And so that would be my main thing. Is I wish I would have gotten more involved in the not in the curriculum, but with the the professors doing research outside of the curriculum, and then also just doing my own stuff alongside it, right? Because that is going to be the best way to make sure that I give a crap when I go to class and I have to learn signal stuff at 8 a.m. Like, if I actually need to know that, like, Fourier transform is important because I want to understand the FFT that shows up on my scope. Does that sound familiar? Do you guys have that at your school or no? Like a lab for doing your own stuff?
Yeah, like we actually, I was going to ask, afterwards, like how you kind of kept motivated. But yeah, I'm actually I'm trying to hunt up an internship with one of my lecturers for the summer because one of his PhD students took an interest in one of my personal projects. I'm trying to build one of those drones that everybody's so scared about in America.
That's awesome. That's really great. And like that is how you get recognized.
Yep.
And, you know, that is actually another thing that I had a lot of trouble with at the end of school because I was not really involved in any of the programs or anything like that. You start going to look for jobs or even internships and stuff like that. They're all like, well, do you have a professor recommendation? And it's like, I don't know any of these guys. You know, I don't know anyone really because I was just focused on the classwork and then doing other stuff. And being in it like you are, I mean, that's really going to build those. I mean, it's effectively networking. And I think you're doing the right things. I would say keep sharing the projects that you're doing because that is a form of networking, is just kind of sharing the projects that you're doing.
And how to stay motivated is, of course, work on your own projects. I mean, that's what I've always done. That's how I've always stayed motivated during either school or a crappy job, which, you know, well, not crappy, but, you know, like one that wasn't technically very satisfying, you know, is that, I just work on my own stuff.
Brian, what are some of the things that you find demotivating currently?
I've had kind of an up and down experience with my actual course. Is like half the things that we seem to be studying. Like in my college, it's a 2-year general engineering course before you're allowed to specialize.
Oh, yeah.
So half the stuff that I've taught, like it seems like I'm never going to use. Like and then. The workload is so inconsistent as well. Like, for example, like we flashed our first microcontrollers like 2 weeks ago, and I'm in like third year.
Yeah, that's consistent with what
common.
Yeah, that's very common.
Yep.
And it's a shame, honestly, because like that is something that gets people motivated, right? That I've controlled my environment type of thing.
Well, in my course, we had to do civil engineering. We had to do mechanical engineering, right? Just in case, in quote marks, that you wanted to change your course. It's like, but I'm here to do electronics. I don't want to learn civil engineering, you know? But that was the course. I mean, that was just, you know, I mean, yeah, you'll do a lot of stuff which you either won't find interesting or won't find useful. It's just, unfortunately, you just have to suck it up.
I had a chemistry module in first year that was diabolical.
Oh yeah, no. Well, that's engineering. You do like the first 2 years are usually math.
It's classically trained
physics.
engineering. I think.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
that's
classically
really
trained.
what it is. Yeah.
So it's math, physics. You know, some chemistry.
I mean, Brian, it sounds like you got through it. So that's good.
Well, it does get better from here on.
Yes.
Usually the later parts are more interesting.
And one final follow-up question. I was going to ask how you handle like organization and stress, because in the last couple of weeks it seems like they've dumped an entire term's worth of work on us to do like this month alone. So do you have any experience with dealing with that kind of
I am horrible at that.
I was going to say my answer is going to be different than Dave's too, because he doesn't drink.
Right. No, I am horrible at coping with stuff like that. It's, you know, not from the study side at least from the study side of things. If it's technical, if I'm being bombarded with technical stuff, that's fine, because I'm a technical guy. But when it comes to study, and I don't have any advice there, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a tough spot.
I'm just hopeless at it. I'm like beyond hopeless.
Dave's answer is become a YouTube star.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So.
Fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory.
No, Brian, I'm not sure, man. I think at those times,
tough.
like for me personally, was always like I had some friends that I leaned on for like study groups and just, you know, explaining to each other as well, because you're going to probably find a mechanical engineer who's hopeless about op amps, or a civil engineer who's hopeless about signals or whatever, you know, like just try and find other people that are going to be helping you along, because those are that. I mean, honestly, and then when you struggle together too, those are the connections that you make that then they become friends, and when you go to work on a project later, you can ask them to, design a crazy mechanical thing, and they won't punch you in the face.
And if you can't find somebody, put up something on the local notice board.
Yes, the BBS. Right?
Yeah. It's like, seriously, like, phone. Like, I want to find somebody who we can, study with, and share ideas, and stuff like that.
Right,
see what happens.
Cool. As for my personal assignments, I'll have to fall back on my old strategy of caffeine and begging my professors for extensions.
Oh yeah, that one's tried and true as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Good luck, Brian. Thanks for calling in.
All right.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, I don't miss school at all, Dave. Like,
no,
at all.
I don't know. No, me neither.
I don't want to say he was on the call, but man, just like, oh, jeez. Is it exam time yet? It's not, right? It's not yet.
No, it's just started. It's February.
Yeah. Some people on quarter. I don't know. I talked to someone
quarters?
the other day.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, but that's weird. Okay.
It's been that long, I totally forget. But don't you just love the Irish accent? I'm sorry, like it's almost he's like every sentence he's going to bust into a joke, like. Sorry, I just love the.
I do love Irish accents. I don't think that's that's not what I usually assume, but.
Right. No, I just find them funny.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what they say, and Irish comedians funny. They don't need to say anything. They just need to say gibberish, and it's funny.
You should imagine how people hear Aussies, Dave.
Right. Okay. Yep. Fair call.
Yep.
Speaking of which, next call.
Next call. Oh, actually, speaking of which, we haven't had any Aussies on this show. So maybe only Aussies like embedded people, or maybe they dislike you. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe. Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. All right. Here we go. Maybe an Aussie. I don't know.
That tall poppy syndrome.
What's that? What's tall?
Oh,
I don't even want. I don't care. All right. Here we go. New call.
Google it.
Hey, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Paul from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. How's it going?
Welcome,
Hey,
Paul. How you doing?
I know your name.
Oh, yeah?
Paul DeBoer. How do you pronounce your last name? DeBoer?
I don't know. I'm Canadian. I pronounce it DeBoer. I'm not Dutch.
Awesome. What's your question, Paul?
I'm currently a test automation engineer, mostly software, but, jack of all trades and all that.
Yep.
I was wondering what sort of skills for PCBAs I could use to transition to more electronics. Like I watched Dave's video about, I think you had a panel that you were designing. And
yes,
you had,
that's
you
right.
routed lines through the
through the tabs,
the corners. Yeah,
Yep.
it's pretty interesting. Stuff like that seems like would be quite interesting for my customers, and if I could transition into electronics,
Right.
what other skills could I get?
I would suggest not starting there.
Well, the problem is electronics is such a broad, and even electronics assembly is such a broad, palette of skills. It's it's hard to say. Like, do you want to specialize in layout? Do you want to specialize in procurement and assembly? Do you want to specialize? You're a test engineer, right? So, right. So you probably know all about designing test jigs and points and things like that. It sounds like you're on your way already to. It sounds like you need more PCB layout skills, perhaps. Would that be fair to say?
It's true. I definitely do.
Okay. Yep.
Could you give us an idea about the speeds of the signals that are on the board and stuff too? Because that often will determine, and currents and things like that. Because that will determine where you should be focusing your efforts, I think, as well.
Well, the question is really about where I want to take my career.
Right.
The boards I'm working on now are pretty low-speed signals. It's mostly medical industry.
Mm-hmm.
So various pressure sensors and temperature sensors, pulse oximeters and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But like the skills to design these boards, to break into that somehow.
You've got it. Well, the answer is
medical industry is you go get a master's degree, right? I hope that's not what you're going to tell me.
No, not
wouldn't
necessarily.
say that.
No, the medical industry is just like the military industry I've worked in, very regulated, highly regulated.
Yeah, but less on the test side, right?
Boredom. Oh no, even on the test side. I
really?
come from military test engineering. That was
I didn't know that. Okay.
I spent more than a decade doing that, and it's exactly the same in the medical industry, highly regulated. You know, you can spend 6 months choosing and selecting the right screw. You know, like I'm not kidding. You know, it's like it can be that anal.
Yes, I've recently had experience with these regulations. It was not fun.
No, it's not. It's not pretty at all.
You know, I don't know many people who are like, regulations, woohoo! You know, just in general, but yeah, okay.
No,
I get what you're saying.
Anyway, the answer is no, not to go get your master's degree. The answer is to do a big project of your own so that you can show it off. That, like we said that before earlier in the show. Like,
right, well, he wasn't listening
It
to that
all
part,
comes
though.
down to that. Oh, right, no, he wasn't listening. But we said that before. If you've got a big project to show off, then that can potentially help you to get a position more into the side of things that you want, especially with inside the company. A lot of medical companies and big companies like that are very regimented in their recruitment processes so that you can actually apply internally for other jobs, and they have to take you seriously. There's a formal process. So if you can, apply for a position which some sort of design position, you might have to start out in junior design position, of course. But if you've got something to show off, I mean, you can't expect to move from test engineering to design engineering just without any example work. I mean, you've got to have something, usually. That is the best bet. I would find a project, a meaty project, and make a commitment to it. Go, right, I'm going to spend X thousands of dollars doing this project, in terms of, to build it and everything else. I'm going to spend X number of months and I'm going to design and build it from scratch, even if it is kind of pointless. You do it as an example work, but you've got to put a serious effort into it.
Well, I think another thing too is that if you know of someone at your company and you see a job that you are interested in, talking to that person is also, understanding their background, understanding their daily work, understanding their skill set. Again, if this is an internal, if you're trying to jump laterally inside your company, that's the easiest way because you can already walk up and talk to these people. It's harder if you're like, well, I want to go work at that company across the street. You might not know the design engineer there. But I think that ultimately, either way, it's going to be about trying to talk your way to different people. And, that's what networking is. And it's easier when it's internal. Maybe you go and talk to the guy that has a job that you'd be interested in, and you know he's not going to ever retire or they're not going to hire for that. That's fine. At least you know those skill sets so that you can go and look somewhere else and develop them and target your project that Dave's talking about towards that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, here's a tip for free, how to actually approach these people, right? If you want to approach a design engineer, don't just walk up and go, hey, I'd like to talk about design engineering. No, actually take one of the products that they've designed, right? Take it apart, look at it, get the schematic. You work at the company, I'm sure you can get it, right? And just, go up to them with the schematic, a big thing circled. Hey, can you explain how you did this? Or maybe if you're clever, you can, if you're good, you can, go, hey, why did you do it this way? Why didn't you do it some other way? Right? And design engineers love to talk technical. They're not going to tell you to bugger off. They're going to go, whoa, and they're going to sit down for hours and start talking technical. Oh, go for it.
No, I mean that's what they're going to say. They're going to tell you that they have a story about that resistor that's stuck there weirdly.
Of course.
Right. That's what I mean.
Exactly.
Right.
And then, bam, you'll be their best friend because you're talking about their design. They love that.
Yep.
Design engineers love that. So that's the way to butter them up.
It wouldn't be an internal move.
Oh, it wouldn't be an internal move. Damn it.
Entirely test engineering, but quite often the design engineers end up coming on site. Even if they're going to be busy, I could harass them a little bit.
Oh, totally.
Well, during the Embedded show last time when Chris and Alicia were here too, Alicia had a really good point. She said her career turned when she started buying people lunch. And if you can convince someone like, hey, I'm just, I'm going out to lunch. I'd love to buy you lunch and hear a little bit about your job, that kind of thing. I'm totally on board with that. I think that's a great way to make a friend, but also, hear a little bit about where you might want to be going.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, thanks for calling in, Paul.
Thanks, mate.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So it's tough when you. I hate for our answers to everything to be like, oh well, make a board and then network. But some of those things can be hard to. I remember people telling me to network, and I'd be like, screw you! I don't know what that means. Right. Often it means beers and lunch and being nice to someone and being curious.
But as somebody who was essentially an engineering social recluse,
right?
I find that difficult. Right? Kind of, sort of was. Yeah. I find like that advice to me is useless. It's like, well, no, I don't talk to people. That's just like
yep.
Yeah. I couldn't think of any worse advice back in the day, but unfortunately, it's
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's why people talk about that. It's a skill, right? I mean, it
that's
sucks.
why I said talk technical, because that's something I could do. I was never afraid to express my opinion, right? That's the only advantage I ever had, right?
So I'll get what this was, Dave.
So I would walk up to the designer and with the schematic, even as a 17-year-old kid.
Yep.
At my first job, I'd walk up and say, "Hey, I think you've done this wrong." I think we're going to have a problem here.
Yep.
I wasn't afraid, even if I was wrong. It didn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah, I was not afraid to do that, but I was afraid to. Can we have lunch together?
You can work up to that, of course. I mean, but I think you're right. I mean, and the same thing we talked about with when you have. I believe I was editing last week's show, and you proudly said the phrase "whip it out." When in doubt, whip it out. But yeah, I mean that's what it is. But when you have a board ready to go and you want to talk about that, it is the common language. And I think you're right. You're right on that spot.
Yep.
Spot on. All right, we have more in the queue. Man, remember when we used to have no calls? This is great.
Well, we've already been recording for an hour.
Well, we're gonna keep going. I have another four or five questions that are not going to get posted. I mean, they're just written questions. So we're, like I said, we're prioritizing people that are calling in.
Okay, we'll have
Skype.
to make it quick then.
Oh, yeah, Dave's so busy.
More efficient.
More efficient. Oh, right. Okay, here we go.
Well, what are we going to do? A 3-hour call-in show?
How about an hour and a half? I don't know.
Come on, let's go.
All right, we're going.
Stop diddy-dallying.
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 Dilly. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?
Hey, this is Adam from Western Massachusetts.
Welcome, Adam.
How's it going?
And Adam, your name sounds familiar. I think we've seen your bench before.
You have. This was way back in the day when you guys used to do Workbench of the Week.
No way.
Week. You have a veteran
I think I
here.
was the first video entry into that little thing
right.
that you guys did for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that. And
So
you had like 4
fold.
different workbenches or something crazy too.
Yeah, it's a big workbench. I'm sitting next to it actually. It's a big workbench and it's got 4 different stations, so I can kind of have 4 projects going on at the same time and not have to constantly clean the desk and move over to the next project and whatnot. So
Nice.
it's served me well for this many years.
Great. So, what kind of question do you have?
So my question is actually in regards to just in general resources for learning advanced PCB design. I know you guys have touched on PCB design in the past, and anybody can go on Google and find tons of resources for just doing kind of basic run-of-the-mill PCB design, 2-layer type stuff. But I find that I'm starting to get more into needing to deal with, say, BGA type parts, which inevitably just drives you into having a multiple or more than 2 layers, 4 or 6 layers and whatnot.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to figure out, what's the best route to go to get resources on learning that kind of stuff. Because it just seems like, in my experience in the different companies that I've worked for, there's a couple of guys, in the company that know that stuff. Either because they've been doing it for 20 plus years, or because they've, when they came on, they learned it from some other guy who was there for 20 plus years. Yeah. And so, just trying to figure out where would a guy like me who's, I've done some PCB design, some basic type stuff, but nothing to that extreme. Where would be a good place
Adam,
for
how much
me
money do you have in your pocket right now?
Well, Well, that's another question, right? And so, I mean, I know that you can go to school, and if you want to be a digital designer, you can go to school and take courses and get all that stuff done. And that's kind of the route that I took.
No, actually, I'm not talking about school. So I'm talking about vendor training. So that's definitely one way. Is that like all of these companies, Altium has it, Mentor has it.
But they're more about using the tool than fundamental engineering principles behind them, usually.
Usually, sure.
Right. And that's what I'm looking for. Like, I have some friends who are kind of in the business of doing PCB design full time, and Dave, I think that's kind of your world for a while, right? That's kind of where you
was. I was a full-time PCB designer. Yep.
Exactly, and so
I was the guy in the company you were talking about.
That's right. You know that guy? You hand him a board, and he's just like making fun of you, and he's questioning all your decisions, and yeah.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, I talk to some guys like that, and ask them some general questions, and it just seems like common knowledge to them. I mean, like, oh, well, you would want to do, use this kind of decap and sprinkle them over here, and you want to use an inductor to isolate those power rails, and it's like, well, how do you figure all that stuff out?
So many rules of thumbs, you need more thumbs, right?
A good friend of the show, Vincent Himpy, he was writing a PCB book, an advanced PCB design book, as was I, but he got much further into it. But it's fallen by the wayside, unfortunately, since he went to work for Tesla. Not sure where it's at now, but you're right. There's very little out there. I know there is a guy. I don't know his name, and I probably can't Google him this instant, but he does a online.
I know who it is.
Advanced PCB design course.
It's Robert Farinack, Fedeville Academy.
That's it.
Yep.
Yes,
I looked him up before this because I was going to suggest him as well. Yeah. So he teaches via Altium, but he does that. He has a module where he's connecting like DDR3 RAM to a BGA high-end micro.
Right.
I think it's a Freescale.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. So a course like that would be very much worthwhile taking.
I think.
Does he have? I mean, are there courses out there? You're saying, or are they?
Very few.
Probably only
that's the
courses,
only one I can remember offhand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's going to be, and so like so Robert teaches with Altium as well.
Yes, he does.
So if you're not in Altium, then it's going to be a little bit harder, obviously, because you're going to have to either get a license or whatever. I think that some things, there's a lot of different skills here you're talking about. You're talking about like signal integrity stuff, so you could take, Henry Ott's courses, and Howard Johnson doesn't teach anymore, but like those kind of like Eric Bogatin still teaches a lot of stuff like that. There's going to be that kind of calculation type side of things, but in terms of the rules of thumb you're talking about, drop a cap here, you need this, you need that. Oof, yeah.
Robert also has a YouTube channel where there's lots of free content, so I suggest you go in there and check it out.
Yes.
Like a lot of it is tool specific.
Robert Farinack is
it's user MATAROFE. We'll link it
we'll link
down below. It's got a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And like a lot of it is tool specific, but there's also a lot of it that is not. And like I've done one or maybe two, or at least one. I was going to do another one where I lay out a board in time lapse and I explain my thought processes on top of laying out that board. And like it was a simple double-sided, relatively simple double-sided, so it wasn't the advanced stuff, but things like that. And I think he's done some similar stuff, so go check it out. That's the only one I can know of offhand, but there's not much out there. Unfortunately, it's just like a snippet of an application note here that explains BGA bypassing, for example.
That's
and
true.
A snippet of an application note over there.
Because I'm starting to use more of I'm kind of doing a lot with FPGAs and whatnot. I know Xilinx does typically put out some app notes with a lot of their stuff saying that these are
they're very good.
Not only that. Yeah. Exactly. These are the decap values we want to use. These are the actual size of the caps you probably should be using. These are where you want to place them. And so they've done a lot of work in that area.
Totally.
But is that applicable to any BGA device? Those are the things that
Yes, it is. And that's where guys like me, get our knowledge from. We had to lay out our first BGA board once, and I don't know, how do I do the, you know the general of how to do the bypassing, but are there any other things, how to do the fan outs? You read that, you find these application notes, and a lot of it is general advice that you can apply to.
It's a folder
other
full
chips.
of PDFs. Everybody has the folder full of PDFs.
Or a contact list full of names of guys who know that kind of stuff.
That works too. Yeah, I mean, do you have anyone that you're working with or no?
No, I mean, so I work with, I do ASIC design. So everything that I do is, basically, designing using HDL, either Verilog or VHDL or whatnot.
Right.
And so I'm very, I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm just kind of doing a lot of high level type stuff. And then eventually we do SOCs, and it ends up going on from there. But it's not really on the physical side of things.
Which, by the way, to us is black magic. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, your stuff is black magic to me, and so
I should note that I don't
So I
actually
kinda
do
do
high
that
speed
full
stuff. So
time.
yeah.
I do all that stuff full time. But as soon as I'm done work, I want to be down here in the lab and doing PCBs and FPGAs and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where that's where I'm a little weak, is just the PCB stuff. Like I said, I've done a ton of PCBs, but they've been very basic 2-layer stuff, and a lot of the projects that I'm getting into now are requiring like the Series 7 Xilinx stuff, which is all BGA.
Yeah,
they don't
right.
even make anything other than VGA anymore, and so it's inevitable. I'm going to have to kind of hone up on those skills if I want to start making those kind of boards.
Yeah.
Now, the advice we were giving out earlier in the show may not be as applicable here, because as you said, you can't go buy $1,000, or $5,000 Vertex 7 FPGA and just spin your own project out of your own pocket, and do your own 8-layer board. And no, they're getting cheaper now to do 6 and 8-layer boards yourself, but still, you're talking many, many hundreds of dollars minimum, to do one spin or whatever, if you're lucky.
Right.
And so it's not as easy to get those advanced skills unless you're actually spinning advanced stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not.
So Adam,
an
it sounds like
easy
some of your problem can be
thing to
solved
get in.
with buckets of cash.
Right, buckets of time, and
But app notes too. App notes are mostly free. So
yep.
so maybe start there.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I think this is also a good thing. Like people who are listening right now who are like, I know a lot of this stuff, and I've been looking for an opportunity to make an online course. Hey, guess what? We just found you one. So Adam is willing to pay somewhere between free app note and training at Altium or wherever.
Awesome. Well,
All right,
thank you guys.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for calling in.
All right, take care, guys.
All right. We have, I believe, 2 more, maybe more. We'll see. I think 2 more. You with me, Dave?
That'll do. I'm still here.
All right. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Rudy. I'm calling from Colorado.
Welcome to the Amp Hour, Rudy. How you doing?
Thank you. How are you?
Good, mate. What's your question?
My question is, I know Chris is doing stuff with 3D printer. He got a new 3D printer, and I wanted to see if he had tried out a program called OpenSCAD.
Aha, yes. We were talking about modeling last week, actually.
You were?
Yeah. No, I haven't done that yet. Marty, the guy who I mentioned who designed the printer, actually has a bunch of those files, and he was doing that. And the parametric stuff seemed like it was good, but it's very script focused. Is that right?
Well, yes and no. It's not too heavy on script. It's pretty short. It's if you know a little bit of scripting, you can get a long way. You don't need to know a lot.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot more math-based than it is scripting, actually. So your basic math skills will help.
Right. So what if I don't have those?
Well, you should have some math, because I think you're an engineer, right? So you should have some math skills.
Yeah, some days I'm an engineer. Yeah. So what are you using it for?
Well, I have built actually some brackets for my rowing machine, so I could put my laptop on top of it. I've made a cookie cutter for some cookies on a 3D printer, and it's much easier, I think, to get into 3D printing and 3D modeling than any of the softwares I've tried.
Well, actually, I tried Open SCAD, or is it SCAD? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
I tried it once and I went, code? No, just you know. No,
I think that's what scared me off too.
Yeah, it scared me off completely. It's like, no, it might be easy once you get over that hurdle, but no, to me it was not intuitive at all to use. So yeah, I was scared off.
But maybe that's a better question. Is Rudy, what's your background? Like, are you coming from the software side, or are you doing like? Because me and Dave are both like we're like visual, ECAD, drawing trace from here to there, not like scripting stuff from here to there.
That's true. I'm a software engineer, so for me it's pretty easy to pick up. But are you still there? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, still here.
Still here. I just saw an internet connection issue. So yeah, for me it's easy, but I think it's easier for you guys too. You need to know how to code some of the microprocessors, and there's a lot of C involved in that. It's very C-like.
True, but it was just a philosophical thing for me. Like, why should I have to write code to do my model? I mean, it just stopped me in my tracks right there. It's like I thought, this is silly. Why should I have to write any code? Why can't I just use my mouse and draw the thing I want to draw?
Well, I think some of it's, even using a mouse is kind of unnatural, right? If you could mold digital clay, right, that would be like the most, because you can, start to draw stuff with your hands in 3D space, but that's not that doesn't exist yet, anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's just what we're used to, and I think that's the thing that I started with SketchUp as well. Dave used 3D CAD before. With other
I wrote my
program.
own CAD program once back in the day.
Oh yeah, nice.
When I was a teenager, yep.
So yeah, I think Rudy, it's just about where we're coming from here. So, but I think that in terms of the open source options, that's definitely one of the best ones out there because I know that it is open source.
I think if you get into it a little bit, you'll find out that it's actually quite powerful. You start creating some models that you didn't think you could create, and much faster.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
A little bit of scripts. You can rotate images, you can, subtract them very easily, and I think you get much quicker with coding and getting a 3D model than you actually have to manually do with the mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't argue the point. It's what people are feel comfortable with, and I don't feel comfortable writing code to draw a 3D model. So, I think Chris probably feels the same way. So, yeah.
I am totally on board. Yeah. Right. And that's why me and Dave get along once in a while.
So we appreciate, but we can both appreciate how powerful it could be, and that for some people or for many people, maybe even the majority, it might be, a really good way to do it. It just doesn't feel right to us, that's all.
Got it. Okay. I did have another question. I have a wager with my son, and it's about self-driving cars, and when will we see commercially available cars? And the wager is, I predicted it's 10 years, so that was in 2015 when we had this wager. So I think it's going to happen in 2025. But my son thought it would happen already in 5 years. What do you guys think? We'll see.
I think you're both wrong. I think,
I think you have to define,
available,
you have to define
commercially available and people actually using it are like a significant percentage of the population actually using it.
I don't think it's even that. I think you have to define what is it. Is it like you get in a car and you never touch a steering wheel? Because technically right now you can buy a Tesla Model D 85, whatever the expensive one is, and you can use the autopilot and you're sitting there and it's driving, on the highway. It is taking over on the highway. So the answer is you're both wrong if you kind of like that. So I think that's ultimately what it comes down to.
But we've talked about this on the show before, and I have predicted that. Did I? I think I did. That Sagan, my 4-year-old son, he will not be driving. He will be driving He will not have a self-driving car.
Right. He'll still have to learn how to drive, you're saying.
Yeah, he will still have to learn how to drive. So that's 15 years.
Oh, 15 years.
Let's just round it to 15.
Oh,
let's just say 15 years into the future. I think, there's a lot more subtle issues, I think, that people, oh, great, yeah, we can do this self-driving car, but the practicality of it, I think it's going to come a gutser. I think it really is, and the regulation side of things, certification, it's opening up a whole can of worms that we haven't hit yet.
And speaking of hit, I tweeted the other day because I had a guy that was driving towards, I was walking my dog and I was crossing the street and the guy didn't even look. Like he was taking a left.
Right.
I was about to go into the crosswalk. I was watching him because I expected him not to look. And you know what? A car would have looked. So I think that once that mindset gets out there a little bit more, what's going to happen, I think, is that more and more sensing is going to come into play. I talked to of course. I was emailing with Tom Laments, who's actually a former guest who designs gigahertz level sensors and stuff like that. And he was telling me about it. It's very exciting right now, and there's lots of sensing opportunities. That's just going to keep happening, I think. I think Dave's right, actually, about the regulation is going to be ultimately, if you want to get in your car and never touch the steering wheel, that's probably going to be 15, 20 years. I would agree with that. Just because that's a big deal. So,
I think it's also a cultural thing. They did a show on the PBS
totally.
about how North America, they wouldn't like to have a car without a steering wheel because they actually enjoy driving, versus India and
Not
China,
me.
where they actually
to
have a car without a steering wheel because there's so much congestion and they don't care about the driving.
Right, they don't care, right? Yeah, totally different cultures. Yep.
Sure.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be different places will have different adoption rates, but yeah, I'm sure it's going to come, and I'm fine with it. Don't lump me in with North Americans. All right, well, Rudy, thanks for calling in, man.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Chris and Dave. You have a good day.
Yeah, good luck
See
when
ya.
you're back with your son. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, we got
Young kids these days think things are so easy. Yep.
Yeah, we forgot to ask what they actually bet.
Right.
That was
doesn't matter.
That's always
Doesn't matter. A bet's a bet. It doesn't matter what the prize is.
No, it does matter sometimes.
No, it doesn't.
Sure, it does.
No, it doesn't.
All right. Well, we'll find out when you lose. When you lose the bet to me.
Right. It just popped into my mind that Eddie Murphy movie. Is it coming? It's not coming to America. It's the other one.
The millionaire one with Aykroyd.
Trading places.
Yeah,
Trading
that's right.
places. And we bet $1.
$1.
And we're going to ruin this guy's life.
Right, exactly.
The standard bet.
Yep. Randolph.
Randolph. That's it.
Yeah, and if people are listening and haven't seen Trading Places or Coming to America, let's be honest, both of those are
There is
amazing.
a cameo by them in Coming to America.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, when they're both.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yep.
No spoilers.
Yeah,
no spoilers.
Yeah, no. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Man. So I think we have one more caller here.
Last caller. Last suck of the Sav. Let's
right.
go.
Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Andy Soa. I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Welcome, Andy. How you doing?
Hey, Andy.
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Cool.
Good.
What's happening down in?
Over in for me.
So,
over. Sorry.
For you, it's up, Dave.
Up. Yeah. Okay. Forget I even said that. I'm geographically challenged. Anyway, thanks. What's your question, mate?
I'm working on a project. I'm doing a display for a fridge I'm making with a couple buddies of mine. And I want to do a touch display.
Not an internet-enabled fridge.
No, we don't want to do internet-enabled.
It's a beer tracking fridge, yeah?
Yes.
So it's a dry aging meat fridge. So we're trying to age steak 25, 45 days.
Right.
So,
yeah, interesting.
Instead of getting it from high-end restaurants, trying to do it at home. So we got a specific aesthetic we want to hit. So touch buttons and display help that. So I started learning KiCad, and I got a board made and made some touch buttons. But I was wondering if maybe Chris could help let me know the best way to make different touch buttons, and then like how to stop interference from those low-level signals from those, because I have a 22-inch long board and I have some long traces, and I'm afraid that I'm going to get a lot of noise.
No. Yeah, that's you might have to put a local micro with the touch sense in right on the same board as the touch panel, and then run a SPI bus or whatever over. I mean, you can get these touch chips that have a serial interface, and you put them right next to, on the same board as your touch.
Well, could
panel.
you explain, Andy? Could you explain the system layout a little bit better? So there's two boards, or there's one board?
There's one board right now, but it looks like I'm gonna have to do a specific touch board, and then have another board and have all my displays. So I have some 7-segment displays, and that's gonna have more of the controls. So because I can't, can't get.
I thought you were using an LCD display.
No, I want to do like touch pads out of copper, and then I'm gonna have I have three different 7-segment displays, so I have 6 total digits. But because
sorry, I would be tempted to go with a touch panel graphic display myself.
Well, that's what he's saying. You wanted the look though. So there's something about the look though. You're saying, Andy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea. Is you want that PCB like tactile, not tactile, but like a physical button versus a screen button.
Mm-hmm. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
Got it.
Is we have an industrial designer working with me who has a specific aesthetic that he wants to hit. So
got it. Right.
Yes. Posted a picture for us here too in the chat, Dave.
So there's
a
picture there, and if you go to the next one over, there's 2 different pictures.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't finished populating yet, and so I haven't tested the buttons yet. I'm assuming they're not going to work well, but this is just a quick prototype just to.
Actually, I would say that you have a bigger problem here in that you're gonna pay out the nose for this PCB because you said it's a 22-inch PCB.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I would say that's gonna run you a lot of money. It looks like you're replicating things. I would actually. So again, I have to kind of explain what me and Dave and Andy are looking at here. But
I can't see it. Sorry, the page isn't loading. Bloody internet.
So it's a long board. It's obviously long and narrow, but basically it looks like replicated things going along there. And first off, I mean, you're going to be limited by panel size. I think you can get a 24-inch panel, so that is possible. But if you want to, especially for prototyping, you're going to want to go to a shorter one anyway. So like Dave's saying, I would, it's almost getting to the point where you can get a low-cost chip and drop one next to each button if you really wanted to. That's really overkill, but that is potentially a solution.
But you could, yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. What kind of buttons are they again? Are they cap touch buttons? Is that right?
Yeah. So right now I do use like an Atmel part that's 11-channel button. So I thought about going with they have a 1, and I think they may have something in between, and doing what you're saying there is reducing my buttons per chip, but then doing a SPI interface in between.
Yeah, or I2C works too. I mean, like honestly, anytime you're going to be if you're trying to sense that long of a distance, you got to think about the there is current flow involved there. You're obviously pushing charge around, and you're trying to sense that really far remotely, and that's going to be one of your initial issues. So being local is definitely going to be better. Another thing though is breaking this board into multiple boards and then having them actually have connectors to connect together. Because that way, then when a button breaks, you're not replacing a whole strip either. You're replacing just a portion of the strip, that kind of thing.
Dude.
Yeah.
The buttons don't break. They're capacitive touch.
I meant the board. What if the board shorts out or gets? What if you pour beer or beef juice on the board, right?
Well, that's what solder mask is for. You put solder mask over the top, and Bob's your uncle. Any color solder mask you like, as long as it's not black.
So, Andy, you were asking though about KiCad. So assuming those other things happen, what was the problem with a KiCad button versus something else?
So right now, what I had to do is I had to import a text to do like a ground grid on the back. I was reading the app notes, and they say you should do some type of grounding grid with 50% copper, 50% not, to stop it picking up any sensing from behind the board. So to do that, I had to make an image and then load the image in the KiCad, and then I had to do a lot of like text editing to try to get that in there and get it to work out. So I was wondering if if you knew of anyone who had a more elegant way to do that in KiCad, or if that's something you're working on, or.
Right. So you're talking about a hatched plane, basically. Yeah, that's what you're asking about. Did you know that term or no?
Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly what the term was, but.
Yeah, so the hatch fill is basically like you'll see that in a lot of older stuff as well. But who were we talking to, Dave, about that? It was
I can't remember, but it used to be popular back in the 70s and 80s when you'd put a hatch fill because
it was about the copper
board
etching.
Warping was a problem. It was just a PCB material science problem. That they've pretty much solved these days, so nobody There's not much reason to do a hatched ground plane anymore.
Right. Well, actually, so the one that I was thinking, there was someone I think it might have been Eric that was on the show, Eric Bogatin.
Eric Bogatin, yes, we were talking about it.
Yeah, so he was doing that from a signal integrity standpoint just because that changes the impedance of the planes, and that's not what you're doing here. But, well, I don't even know why this app note's saying that. If you did shorten up this board, you could try it, obviously, with just a solid plane, but it is usually a good idea to follow the app note recommendations.
Oh, the reason it's got a hatch plane in the case of a touch sense is to lower the capacitance. Because when you've got a solid plane, because these capacitive touch buttons, their name gives it away, they work on capacitance. And if you've got the greater your capacitance on the line, the more that swamps the capacitance of your finger when you go between the pads. So that's why, hence the crosshatch fill. So lowers the capacitance. Yep. But still provides some shielding. So,
So in terms of the actual hatching itself in KiCad, it appears, just looking on the KiCad forum, the user forum, there's a couple of questions in there about it. It looks like it doesn't exist currently because, like Dave said, not as many people are using it. But one thing that you could do is if you check out, there's actually, so for via stitching, you kind of have to, there's kind of a workaround as well that one of the developers showed, and then I made a video of it.
Yeah.
But basically, it's like you make a via as a component, and then you can replicate that component in a grid. And basically, what you could do here is you could do the same thing and have like I guess it would be a keep out almost. You could do a keep out replicated over multiple places, and then the copper would fill around those things. Maybe you wouldn't want an actual drill, but you could maybe do. I guess what you could do. I guess what I would do is probably have a copper circle, or whatever you wanted to, maybe a circle in the copper with nothing in the middle, right? And then basically replicate that in a lot of different places. And then when you do a copper fill around those quote unquote components, then you would have a bunch of spaces in between. It would look like Swiss cheese effectively, but it would start to replicate that hatch kind of thing. It's definitely a workaround. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is knowing that often the hard part is knowing what term to Google for, and now that you know hatched plane, that's going to help you, I think.
Yeah, because what I did before is I had to import the image, and then I would get that file from KiCad, and then I would go into I went into a text editor and added those dimensions that it spit out back into the footprint, and then changed it to the copper layer I wanted. So it worked, but it doesn't really like it.
Because
so the design rule check and all that is kind of spotty on it, but I was able to get it to work and do what I needed to do. But,
right, because if you're making like a component in the copper, you can do that, no problem. But it's just when then you try to put a component over top of that, then all your DRC's out the window. So yeah, that is definitely a tough one. I think that if you do a negative space component and then have the copper filling around those negative space things, that would be a little bit better.
That makes sense.
This is a cool project, though. Are you doing, if you don't mind me asking, are you doing like humidity monitoring and stuff like that inside the fridge?
Yeah, we're doing humidity monitoring and regulation. So
cool.
We should have a prototype up in the next couple months or so. We got to order parts, but we got.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know, like you said, a lot of fancy restaurants do that, but even the grocery store down the street from me, they have like this big case that does that, and it like doubles the price of any slab of meat they throw in there, so it's pretty cool.
Definitely get $100 steaks out here in Chicago at some of the restaurants, so it's pretty pricey.
That's pretty crazy. Cool. Well, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
All right. So I guess for those kind of questions too, I do recommend. I mean, there is almost every program has a forum, right? So I think KiCad. Obviously, I run the KiCad forum, but I know Altium has a lot of resources. A lot of them, like that is kind of that was a EDA specific one, but
yes,
yeah,
right,
yeah. So
that was a successful call-in show.
That was a lot of calls, man. I'm like exhausted.
Yeah, I know. Mentally and physically.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What was that? Only 6 calls? Is that right?
Really? Was that
no,
6?
Felt like more.
Didn't seem like.
Did we miss anyone?
Okay.
Well, let's see.
Anyway.
I have a list here too. 1,
the show's
2,
gone for an hour and a half.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 calls. All right, well, so I should mention that other people did write in, and I apologize. Like Dave said, we just hit a hour and a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repost those onto the subreddit, and then what we'll do is we'll have those for the next show. And if people want to post at any other time, they can obviously they can post questions over on the subreddit. It doesn't have to be a call-in show. You can always just ask, just write a text post or write into feedback@theamphour.com. That always works too.
It does. Sweet.
What else is going on with you, man? I feel like I'm talking to you, but I'm not talking to you, you know?
No, exactly. No, it's weird, isn't it?
It's a little weird. Yeah.
Because usually we just yap on for an hour ourselves, but haven't been able to.
Yeah, and you got those scopes that we mentioned at the...
They just turned up like 2 seconds before the show started. Yep.
Nice. Did you figure out what you're doing for that?
I'll give them away on the forum.
Okay. That's what I expected.
No,
that's good.
Everything else is just too hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice and simple.
And even that's too hard. Like, I wanted to limit it to Australia only.
Oh, so that you don't have to ship.
yeah, exactly. So there's, guaranteed no hassles in shipping, which is actually quite a valid thing to do because Keysight are not allowing Australians to enter their contest next month.
Sure.
So, but I thought
you should just, you should
unfair.
do. No, we don't need to drag this out more than 2 episodes here, but I think what you should do is a most Australian contest, right? Who can type the most Australian strine thing that they can, right?
Strine.
Yeah.
Speak strine.
Strine. Yeah. Well, good luck with that. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a guest. I am still working on scheduling, but hopefully with a guest next week.
Sweet.
If not, we'll answer more questions.
All right.
All right, man. Talk to you next week.
See ya. Hello, McFly.
I know, hold on. Here we go.
It takes a while to connect. Is that you?
Well, if they don't answer right away, too.
Oh, they're not answering. Da-da-da. We'll do a song and dance routine.
It's not always the same.
Dude, don't edit anything. People don't care.
Calm your tits.
I'm telling you.
Tell a story, man.
When I was a boy.
Yeah, man.
What am I supposed to do?
Computer's having some issues,
When I was a boy, we used to call people on the rotary telephone. That was the bomb. This is getting embarrassing.
And I've been an electronics hobbyist for about 10
Which means on the recording feed it'll be low.
Oh, really? All right, I'm just going to turn this
was
around.
weird.
If you're going to hear it, I'll just
I just looked at my Skype thing, right? And I thought, well, where's that waveform?
I know it's column share number 3. Wasn't that actually 4? Does the Reddit count? I don't know.
All right.